All right. Um, Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me. If you can hear me okay, if you'll give me just a thumbs up. All right, perfect. Um, I'm super excited to be here today and share some of what we're passionate about at eHub, which is carrier orchestration with you. So to kind of get started here, um, in terms of what we're going to cover today, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the complexities in in the fulfillment industry. Maybe just by a quick raise of hand, how many of you are associated with um, shipping in terms of your direct role, or maybe in terms of a management role? How many of you are involved with shipping today? Okay, perfect. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you face, and I think this is probably going to be a little bit more of a confirmation to what you're already experiencing. We'll talk a little bit about the cost associated to those challenges. We're going to introduce carrier orchestration to you. Um, Carrier orchestration is something that we're extremely passionate about, and so we're going to give you a definition that is how we think about carrier orchestration at eHub. And then we're going to talk about fulfillment intelligence. We'll talk a little bit more about how that is such a key part of what we do for carrier orchestration. We'll give some real world examples, and then we're going to have a Q&A session. So we have some team members here that have a mic. I want to just have this be a discussion. So if you have questions during the presentation, happy to entertain any question. You'd probably just raise your hand and she'll bring a mic over to you. If you want to wait, though, we will have a dedicated Q&A session at the end. My goal at the end of this is for you to take away one action item that you can enhance your fulfillment solution with in terms of carrier orchestration. So maybe if you'll do me a favor, if you have notes, because I want to make this actionable. At the end of the day, I want you to take something from this other than me just sharing some of our insight and how what we think about carrier orchestration. So if you have a notebook, go ahead and make a statement, the start of a statement, I will, and then leave it blank. And then by the end of our time here together, what I'd like you to do is complete that statement, I will, and then make a statement. And that statement should somehow be an action item or a call to action for you to enhance carrier orchestration for your organization. All right, so by way of hands, we had several team members here or several people here that have specific roles in shipping. How many of you today use 3 to 5 carriers? Raise your hand if you have 3 to 5 carriers. Let's say 6 to 10 carriers. More than 10 carriers. Okay, awesome. So this is great. You guys actually, on the kind of 6 to 10, that would represent a customer of ours that would have quite a few carriers, and you are feeling the pain of carrier orchestration today. Let me highlight this. This isn't intended to be a math exercise, but I want to highlight the complexity that we face in carrier orchestration with some data points. So if you're thinking about just geographically, we have over 41,000 zip codes inside the United States. Depending on carriers, you're looking at 9 or more zones. And when you look at carriers, you're looking at more than 100 carriers, national, regional, some niche carriers out there. When you take that and then you look at all of the different services that are available across those different carriers, more than 100 plus carriers, on average maybe 12 plus services per carrier, you're talking about more than 1,200 service options. Then you take into account fees, surcharges. You're talking about potentially 50 or more surcharges, accessorial fees, etc. And then you take into account your technology stack, how many systems you have that are part of your fulfillment solution. And when you put all this together, again, these numbers may be extreme. Nobody here is using 100 carriers. But when you look at this, in this example, you've got over 6 million unique combinations that you have to choose from. Again, this is more extreme than what you're dealing with today, but it illustrates the point that you have so many different options and choices and unique combinations that you have to work through. Moving on to fragmentation. So you're dealing with a lot of complexity, a lot of choices. In general, I get the opportunity to work with many different fulfillment centers, 3PLs, brands, and one of the things that I love to do as I work with these different fulfillment centers is I love to talk about their technology stack. It's one of the things that I enjoy working with them on in terms of improving. It's one of the things that I love about learning how they're using technology in their fulfillment process. As I get to work with these fulfillment centers, I find that fragmentation is a very common problem. I've had conversations today about these very problems. So I like to kind of bucket fragmentation into kind of three segments. One of them is data. Data is often fragmented, particularly when you're using multiple systems. And in a best case scenario, what I typically see is fragmented data that is, piecemealed together. And that's kind of a best case scenario. More typically what I see is data available from some systems, missing data that is not available from other systems, and so you're looking at fragmented data that is partially missing in many instances. And so when we look at trying to be data-driven in our fulfillment process, scattered data and data fragmentation is a significant issue. When we look at another aspect of fragmentation, we're driving more and more to automation and fulfillment, but typically we see scenarios where manual processes are in place. And manual processes aren't necessarily bad, but in some instances, these manual processes can introduce variation, can introduce inconsistencies in fulfillment, introduce error, introduce inefficiencies. And so when you have some parts of your process that is driven by automation and other parts that are driven by manual work, you'll typically see some fragmentation there. That fragmentation can also lead back into data fragmentation problems, because when you're looking at your fulfillment process, you have to understand, well, was this fulfillment done and completed through our automation process, or was it done through maybe a more manual process? And then last but not least, system incompatibility. So I spoke about my opportunity to meet with many different fulfillment centers and walk through their technology stack. And one of the things that I've observed over time is as organizations continue to grow and evolve in fulfillment, they'll typically have one, let's say a shipping platform, and then maybe they need to add an inventory solution. Maybe they'll add an ERP. And as they continue through that journey and that evolution, they take effectively point solutions and they try to put them together and integrate them the very best they can. And those integrations, typically, one of the things that I see is those integrations are generally not comprehensive. They can work for certain tasks, but in general, the system incompatibility component still exists where you have overlap of functionality within systems. You have one system that doesn't fully talk to another, and so then you have to put around maybe again, kind of going back on the data side, putting data back into another system, and so you have this kind of incompatibility with your systems. So this is the part that I actually really enjoy, which is we have all of the complexity, we have the fragmentation, and then our industry is moving very, very quickly. And so how many times are we seeing fees change, new surcharges, new rates, new carriers coming into the market? Our industry moves at an incredibly quick pace. So with all of the challenges, we're being asked to introduce new carrier options, new carrier services at a really quick pace. And that's hard to do when you have fragmented systems and you have to deal with high complexity. So as I mentioned, I think this is just confirmation for you. if you are participating in fulfillment processes today, I am confident that the three issues that I just kind of discussed, you feel those on a daily basis. So with these challenges, they impact cost. And I thought this was a very interesting study done by McKinsey. And what they did is they looked at the cost of logistics for e-commerce revenue as a percentage of e-commerce revenue. And they did that over a decade period. And what they saw was an increase of 83% in cost. And that was going from 12% to 22%, that increase of cost. And so we go back and we think about, you know, the complexity that we're dealing with, the fragmentation, the speed at which we're trying to work, and then we have increasing cost. And one of the most common comments that I receive from 3PLs is their customers are asking them to reduce cost. And, you know, it's a very interesting dilemma and a challenge that they're in when they have increasing cost, they have inefficiencies in their system, they're trying to manage multiple carriers, and then they're being asked to reduce cost. This cost isn't just in carrier orchestration. It can be in lots of different aspects of fulfillment. This was another interesting study that indicated that retailers will lose $1.7 trillion or lost $1.7 trillion in 2023. And this was dealing more to system incompatibility issues that were driving some inventory issues, over stocking or inventory that was missing. But it highlights again the problem that fulfillment in and of itself has many challenges, and those, whether they're inefficient, whether they're driving, whether it's an opportunity cost, there's a cost associated to those inefficiencies and challenges that we're facing inside of a fulfillment today. And so, you know, one of the things that we look at eHub is we say, okay, how are we part of the solution? How are we helping our customers? How are we helping the industry overcome some of these challenges? And what we've really focused on as an organization is carrier orchestration. I'm not a sales rep. I'm not here for a sales pitch. I'm our COO at eHub. I'm responsible for all of our product initiatives. What I love is working to solve this problem from a product perspective. I love building product to help solve this problem. And so my focus here is going to be talking a little bit about some of the product solutions that we have in place. Again, not from a sales pitch, but hopefully from an education perspective, that as you kind of take that statement again, I will complete that statement, that you'll have something to look back on that you can take back to your organization to improve your carrier orchestration. So I'll give you the definition, the eHub definition of carrier orchestration. Carrier orchestration is the centralized intelligence that connects carriers, systems, and data to make automated, optimized shipping decisions. So let me highlight a couple key points in this definition. First, we talk about fragmentation as being one of the key problems. So at eHub, when we were building our product portfolio, this key word here, connects carriers, connects systems, connect data. That was a key focus point for us because we continue to see fragmentation in the industry, and we need to help our customers and we need to help the industry be better connected. So that's been a key focus for us in our product. Centralized intelligence. When we were putting together our product portfolio, one of the things that we looked at was how do we build intelligence into the products? And we have multiple products. As we asked that question, one of the things that we kind of took a step back on is we said, no, actually, the platform itself has to have intelligence. This has to be a fundamental layer to everything that we do. And so fulfillment intelligence is actually the foundation that we build our products on. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And all of this carrier orchestration is to focus on automated, optimized shipping decisions. And again, going back to some of the problems with the complexity, if we can help automate and optimize those decisions, that complexity, those 6 million unique combinations, we can help you make the best decision on those. And so as we've been building this platform, as we've been working to solve this problem, we've been able to help our customers realize many benefits. A unified carrier management system. So they connect to eHub, one connection, again, that connect part, and they have access into multiple carriers. Not only carriers that we can help support, but their own carriers. Automated decision making. We talked about this. As they have their system connected to us and they're using carrier orchestration, we're going to help them make that best decision. And then making that best decision is all part of them working through understanding what does their optimization look like, what is the SLA criteria of our customers, and putting that all together. So again, I talk about fulfillment intelligence, and this is where I want to deep dive just a little bit more. There's a couple parts of fulfillment intelligence that we think are absolutely critical. One of them is in the data in the predictive side. So it's great to be able to understand what happened and be able to look at the data, and then we provide a lot of data into understanding what happened. What is more valuable is helping us understand what will happen and giving that carrier insight into, if I make changes A, B, and C, what will happen in the future. And that predictive insight is critical. And that's a critical part of what we do and what we're building and what we're going to continue to build. On the next part with fulfillment intelligence, a lot of times it's interesting. I'll hear a conversation about, let me see a rate card. And they want to make a decision based off of rate card A, rate card B, and determine which is the lowest cost. Well, when we look at that, that's an oversimplified problem, because you have to take into account SLAs. You have to take into account dimensions. We've seen instances where if you take a box and you actually make it bigger, you will actually reduce shipping cost. Now, you might say, how's that even possible? But again, that's a possible scenario. And so that's the level of complexity that we're working with, and we needed fulfillment intelligence in the foundation of our platform to help customers better understand those complexities. So I want to give you two examples. These are customers of ours. I'm withholding their name, Company A and Company B. Both of these customers are very, very similar. They're similar in size. They're similar in geographic location. They're similar in even some of the product that they ship. There's a lot of similarities between these two customers. There's two things, though, that are pretty distinct about these two customers. First off, carrier or Company A has been going through the carrier orchestration journey longer than Company B. So they have more experience. They've been putting in more time in terms of carrier orchestration. And then the second difference is the technology stacks between the two. Company A, as I mentioned before, where some people take point solutions and they put them together, that's exactly what Company A has done. All of their technology is third-party technology that they've put together and integrated together. Company B, on the other hand, they have their own technology. They built their own WMS, their own shipping platform. All of that is their own. They have their own IT team. So recently, well, let me give you a little bit more detail. Currently, Company A has 5 carriers. Company B has 4 carriers. And I guess one other difference there, you can see on Company B, they have 4 sort lines. That's a fairly rigid component of their system where they can't just add a 5th carrier because of their sort lines today. So we presented to both companies a new carrier service option that would save between $300,000 and $400,000 annualized for each one of these companies. Not only would they get savings, they were going to have improved or at least equal or better SLA performance, and the customer service component to this new service was better. And so both companies were excited about the opportunity. Company A, in a matter of weeks, got approved, implemented the new carrier. From a technology perspective, very, very quickly, they could implement the new carrier. On the dilemma a little bit for them was kind of working through the full application process. But in terms of technology, they could turn it on very, very quickly. Company B, on the other hand, indicated that they want to turn on the new carrier. They have to get this on their roadmap with their IT team. They'll have to swap out one of these existing carriers, and they're looking for a go live sometime in Q1. So we're talking of at least $100,000 of lost savings. The opportunity cost is at least $100,000. Not to mention the IT costs that they're going to have to incur by having their IT team make the changes. So when we look at this, this is a really, I love this example, not because Company B is struggling to get to the new carrier, because it highlights the cost, it highlights the challenges of not doing carrier orchestration fully in your business, in your fulfillment processes. So I want to walk you through what we've done with Company A. By the way, Company A still has a long way to go in full carrier orchestration. There's still things that we're going to be working on and improving their system, but I want to walk you through what we've done with Company A so you can get some insight into how they are achieving carrier orchestration. So the first thing that we did is we did walk through their full technology stack. We walked through all the way from order to ship, and we said, where are challenges in your technology stack? What prohibits you from quickly implementing a new carrier today? We've identified those. In some instances, we've eliminated them. In others, we still have roadmap items for them to eliminate. The next thing that we did is we said, okay, we need to make it not only very easy from a technology perspective to switch carriers, but we want to give you the right portfolio and give you insight. So national carriers, regional carriers, we want to help you understand the nuances of switching carriers. And so there was an education component to that. There was a big data component to it. And then we wanted to help them understand how they could de-risk their business by adding redundancy into their carrier strategy. So if one carrier had an immediate change that was impacting them in a negative way, they could immediately move to another carrier. And with the right rate shopping technology, they could quickly come in, find out what carrier was best for them. This is one of the things that we probably worked on the most with Company A, is Company A had very limited data based on their fragmented systems. And we sat down with them and we said, okay, great, here's the data that we have available to you. And we co-innovated with Company A. Company A is a pretty large company, publicly traded, and they were missing a lot of data. And so we looked at it as a great opportunity to co-innovate, and we've worked through many different analytics reporting for them, but a couple things that I personally love. This was not just the co-innovation that we had with them, but we had done this before, which was benchmarking. Many organizations can see what their data looks like within their own four walls, but they don't understand what their peers are doing. And so by providing benchmarking, we could not only show them what their performance looks like, but we can show them what their performance looks like compared to their peers. And that was really insightful for this organization, because now they can come in and say, okay, I'm lower than my peers, what do I need to change? And then we kind of really looked at saying, okay, again, predictive, how can we help you with predictive insight? The last thing, and this was a part of the entire process, is we said, what are your strategic goals? Let's define success. Let's sit down and say, what does success look like for you? And there were three main things. On-time delivery. They needed to make sure their SLAs were hit. And they wanted to achieve cost savings per shipment. So we looked at that. And then for them, customer satisfaction was huge. They could not have complaints coming in from their CS team into the fulfillment, and so they needed to minimize that as much as possible. That isn't just on-time delivery. If you pack the wrong products and you ship it, you've got an issue. And so all three of these things were the core things that they said, this is what defines success for us today. So we sat down, we looked at each one, we said, you know, here's kind of what's happening, here's what we're going to do in this new orchestrated fashion, and it significantly has helped them be successful. And so, again, not a sales rep here, but some of the things that we've worked on with carrier orchestration, simplifying the complex. We talked about all those different unique combinations. With our system, we've been able to have one connection that connects the full group. Power and decisions. And this really comes into the automations, it comes into data insight, it comes into that fulfillment intelligence, and then capturing margin. And at the end of the day, if you're a 3PL, you're being asked to lower cost, you're trying to figure out how you drive margin. We have a digital wallet that allows you to do that. And so going from shipment to billing, we can help our customers really handle the cost side of their business. So in closing, my hope is, again, everybody's on a journey in terms of fulfillment with carrier orchestration. And I would hope that each one of you has an item that you can take away. Maybe it's improving your data. Maybe it's taking a look at your tech stack and saying, where do I have fragmented data and how can I improve that?